Hey y'all, thanks for stopping in. So, AstraZeneca admits for the first time that its COVID vaccine can cause rare side effects in a tense legal fight with victims of defective jab. And what do we have here? Another conspiracy theory that has been proven fact. Let's get into the article here. AstraZeneca has admitted in court for the first time that its COVID jab can cause a deadly blood clotting side effect. The exceedingly rare reaction is at the heart. Oh, is that a pun? Is at the heart of a multi-million pound class action by dozens of families who allege they or their loved ones were maimed or killed by the pharmaceutical titans. And I believe that this class action suit is in pounds because the AstraZeneca was not actually available in the United States. So this would be like Europeans and folks outside of the United States, essentially, where the AstraZeneca was offered. But lawyers representing the claimants believe some of the cases could be worth up to $20 million in compensation. Cambridge-based AstraZeneca, which is contesting the claims, acknowledged in a legal document submitted to the High Court in February that its vaccine can, in very rare cases, cause TTS. TTS is short for thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. Did I say that right? A medical condition where a person suffers blood clots along with a low platelet count. Platelets typically help the blood to clot. Got a little graphic here that explains it. What causes the rare blood clots in the Oxford AstraZeneca jab? The vaccine is made of a genetically modified cold virus containing a snippet of COVID's genetic code. The jab is delivered into the muscle of the arm but can sometimes enter the bloodstream. In the bloodstream, it can attract a protein in the blood called platelet factor 4. Is that the spike protein? In rare cases, the body's immune system mistakes platelet factor 4 for the virus attacking it. The body's defensive antibodies clump together around the platelets, triggering blood clots. I'm glad I didn't take it. The complication, listed as a potential side effect of the jab, has previously been called vaccine-induced immune thrombotic, VITT. The AstraZeneca's admission could lead to payouts on case-by-case basis. Although accepted as a potential side effect for 2 years, it marks the first time the company has admitted in court that its jab can cause the condition, the Telegraph reports. Taxpayers will foot the bill of any potential settlement because of an indemnity deal AstraZeneca struck with the government in the darkest days of COVID to get the jabs produced as quickly as possible while the country was paralyzed by lockdowns. And I believe what that is that there was an agreement between governments and pharmaceutical companies that people that are injured by this can't actually come back and sue the pharmaceutical company because it is the government who is essentially expediting the product, skipping protocols and things like that. So the pharmaceutical companies were like, yo, if you're going to have us skip the trials and skip, certain things, then we're not going to be held liable. And it makes me question if AstraZeneca knew that this was a potential side effect when they made that agreement. And if they did, do they still maintain that, immunity from being sued? Something we'll probably never know, right? But it comes just days after the firm reported a revenue exceeding £10 billion in the first quarter of 2024, a rise of 19%. Company officials stated it had enjoyed a very strong start to the year. But the true toll of blood clot side effect victims of AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine may never be known, lawyers claim. Got this other article here. We may never know the true number of people laid low by a rare but devastating complication related to AstraZeneca's COVID jab, lawyers representing families have told Mail Online. 51 families are currently pursuing legal action against the pharmaceutical titan, arguing its defective jab was to blame for their injuries and deaths of loved ones. Called TTS and VITT, the complication caused dangerous and potential deadly blood clots to form in the body. Alleged victims are being represented by Sarah Moore. The criteria for what constituted VITT was really only published and made available to the clinical community from the beginning of March 2021. So they have known about it for a little while. She added that the complication was only spotted when the jab started being dished out to younger people. Cases in older individuals could potentially have slipped under the radar, mistaken for problems linked to COVID or other health issues. We may never know if there were other injuries that could have been related to the vaccine before March 2021, she said. Ms. Moore said the youngest of the 51 cases included in the action involved someone just 19 years old. Her comments come after Cambridge-based AstraZeneca, which is contesting the claims, recently acknowledged in a legal document submitted in the High Court that its vaccine can, in very rare cases, cause TTS. TTS is the medical condition where a person suffers blood clots. Okay, we saw that earlier. And then they got AstraZeneca's COVID jab timeline. In January of 2020, Oxford University scientists started working on a COVID vaccine after the World Health Organization declares the spread of the virus a public health emergency of international concern. In March 2020, then Prime Minister Boris announced first national lockdown. That same month, the government invested £88 million in the development of the Oxford vaccine. So the taxpayers also funded the development of the Oxford vaccine. But in April 2020, alongside AstraZeneca, scientists start the first clinical trials of their new vaccine. This involved 1,000 volunteers in the UK. Wow, how scary. July 2020, results from phase 2 trials of AstraZeneca's jab are published. And then in December 2020, COVID jab rollout begins with the Pfizer vaccine. People over 80 and home care workers were given priority. Then 4 days later, phase 3 trial results of the AstraZeneca's jab are published. These are what health officials will use to approve the jab for use in the UK. December 30th, that same month, AstraZeneca's jab is approved for emergency use. 5 days later, on January 4th, AstraZeneca doses start being dished out. Brian Pinker, 82, is the first person to receive the jab outside of clinical trials. 4 days after that, frontline NHS staff start being offered vaccines. Over 70s are called forward on the 8th. Rollouts open to Brits with underlying health conditions as well as those over 65 on the 14th of February. And then on the 28th of February, all over 60s are invited for jabs. March 11th, European countries start suspending the use of AstraZeneca jab after death of a 60-year-old woman from a blood clot. 6 days later, over 50s start being offered the COVID jab in the UK. And 2 days after that, several European counties reversed decision to suspend AstraZeneca jab after initial investigations find no link to the reported clots. Those initial investigations were not so great, apparently, right? March 31st, people living with the vulnerable adults are called forward to get a COVID vaccine in the UK, even if they are younger than eligible age groups. April 7th, UK restricts the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine to over 30s over a small but statistically significant risk of blood clots in younger people. So at this point, it's been a couple months and they're still handing it out. Over 40s are called forward for COVID jabs. May 7th, restrictions of the AstraZeneca vaccine is widened to include over 40s. August 2022, government sources say they will not order any more AstraZeneca COVID vaccines, instead focus on the mRNA alternatives. And then in March 2023, several months later, dozens of patients and families launched legal actions against AstraZeneca due to, it doesn't say. In April of 2023, the widower of a BBC presenter, Lisa Shaw, who died after having the vaccine, said he has no alternative but to sue AstraZeneca. Then on August 4th of 2023, Anish Taylor, whose wife Alpa died in March 2021 after receiving her first AstraZeneca dose, filed a product liability claim against AstraZeneca at London's High Court. His lawyer says he has nearly 50 other clients who will formally sue AstraZeneca in the coming months. And then finally, on August 17th, 2023, the IT engineer Jamie Scott, who suffered a brain hemorrhage the day after his first AstraZeneca jab, starts a legal case against the company. The law firm representing Mr. Scott says it represents around 40 other individuals or bereaved families. About 50 million doses of the AstraZeneca jab were dished out in the UK in total. Official data shows at least 81 Brits have died from blood clot complications apparently linked to the AstraZeneca jab, according to figures collected by the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. A further unconfirmed number have been injured and or disabled. Further COVID vaccine rollouts have either minimized use of the AstraZeneca jab and or phased it out entirely in favor of the mRNA alternatives like those made by rival pharma giants Pfizer and Moderna. The risks of TTS following AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine is thought to be in the region of 1 in 50,000. However, AstraZeneca's jab is credited with saving some 9 million lives globally during the COVID pandemic, or so they say. Part of the reason some are seeking action is due to what critics have labeled the inadequate or arbitrary nature of the government's vaccine damage payment system. The policy, which has been around since the 70s, offers people or their families a tax-free sum of £120,000, though restrictions apply. It is only available to the family of those who died or those left severely disabled, defined as being at least 60% disabled, based on evidence from a doctor because of a vaccine. Established back in 1979, the scheme is meant to reassure people that in the unlikely event something goes wrong, the state will provide support. In theory, it is meant to combat vaccine hesitancy and encourage the public to get jabbed from various pathogens, helping protect the nation from disease. Critics have said the scheme is arduous, stingy in terms of total payout, and cruel in its 60% disability threshold that leaves people less severely injured with nothing. As it is not compensation, people who take the payment are still entitled to take legal action against the vaccine manufacturer if they choose. Campaigners hope the attention brought by the AstraZeneca case will spark a much-needed rethink of how the nation's vaccine-injured and bereaved are supported. If Brits are left destitute from vaccine-derived injuries, experts fear this will fuel vaccine hesitancy in the future, risking public health from a variety of preventable diseases. It could also leave people vulnerable to a potential future pandemic from a novel virus if some refuse the jab out of fear that they or their families could be left financially ruined if something goes wrong. I really just wanted to stress the fact that, once again, what was once a conspiracy theory from people on the right, particularly, has been proven correct. Truth. No longer conspiracy theory. The AstraZeneca COVID jab causes blood clots. They admitted it in court. It's as simple as that. Now that this has become public and they seem to know the process of how it works, I think it would be fair to request that the other COVID vaccinations, the jabs, would be assessed in the same manner to see if they also attract the protein, platelet factor 4, or whatever it was called, that could cause the body to respond in a way that it will cause a blood clot. But there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, please, and I will see you guys in the next one.